Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Murillo Ninja Hua to defeat Ricardo Arona. And I'm here to talk about Pat Sabatini versus Lucas Almeida. Pat Sabatini is 32 years old, 17-4 as a pro, and he's giving up 3 inches of height and 1 inch of reach to 32-year-old Lucas Almeida, who is 14-1 as a pro. Sabatini, he's coming off a big knockout loss, a TKO loss to Damon Jackson. That's the only time he's legitimately been stopped. He's got another TKO on his record, but it was an injury, so it's not a real loss or a finish loss. And his other 2 losses are by decision, and those are early in his career to good fighters. Jose Mariscal and Robert Watley, good wrestler there. I don't think Lucas Almeida is going to be winning that type of fight. Lucas Almeida, if he's going to win, he's got to crack Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini, he was rocked against Damon Jackson. It wasn't just a finish on the ground. He was knocked silly with a big front kick to the face. And a few fights before that, he was knocked silly by Jamal Emmers, or knocked down anyway. And then he heel hooked Jamal Emmers like 30 seconds later and ended up injuring him and taking a year off his career. Pat Sabatini is a very dangerous submission guy. He's a very good grappler, a wrestler first, but a submission grappler foremost. He's got 10 submissions in his 17 wins, just 2 TKOs, and he's also won 5 by decision. Some of those in the UFC. In the UFC, he's beaten TJ Laramie, Tucker Lutz, Tristan Connolly, all by decision, and Jamal Emmers, who, as I said, he got out of there with a round 1 heel hook after getting dropped. He's also beaten Tony Gravely before he got to the UFC, John DeJesus, this Bellator guy, and Damon Blackshear. He beat him by decision in a 4-round decision, actually. 4 rounds with an extra round there. He's a guy that's gotten plenty of subs in round 2. And I gave him a 10-8 round in round 2 in all 3 of his decision victories in the UFC. Tucker Lutz, TJ Laramie, Tristan Connolly. Once he really takes over with his grappling, he really takes over. Of course, he faded a little bit against Tristan Connolly, but he knew he was on his way to a victory and Tristan wasn't going to put him away. But I do think in the future here at the UFC level, when Sabatini loses, it's going to be him getting put away. I envision him getting rocked by strikes, and Lucas Almeida definitely has the power to get it done. Lucas Almeida is a very powerful guy, wild, hooks. He's like a brawler. There's no shame in being a brawler. Brawlers can be very good fighters, and they can beat technical strikers. Lucas Almeida is a brawler, prefers the hook to the straight punch, knocked out Trezano with a big left hook there, and he really impressed me with that Trezano victory. He really impressed me because Almeida, he lost to Daniel Zahuber on the Contender Series, and he faded down the stretch. He won round 1, came out pretty strongly, and then Daniel Zahuber took over. And the last thing I expected in his Mike Trezano fight was for him to get a 3rd-round finish, especially in a war like that. And it was a war. He was dropped and almost knocked out with a big left hook himself, and he was the last man standing against a seasoned UFC vet. So it was an emphatic debut, very memorable, and he proved to be dangerous against a solid UFC fighter deep into the fight, and that's after getting rocked himself. It did make him look more vulnerable, that fight. He was, almost finished, as I said, but the fact that he didn't go down, he got the finish in round 3, I'd say altogether it's a big plus, that fight. He's got 9 knockouts, 5 submissions in his 14 wins. Of course, the 1 loss is the decision to Daniel Zahuber. That's the only time he's gone the distance. He's gotten, his hooks are everything. He's got really strong punches, but he's also got deadly knees as well. Got a flying knee knockout somewhere. He's a dangerous enough submission threat for low-level regional guys, but I don't think he's going to be submitting Pat Sabatini here. Here, his primary path to victory, his only path, I want to say, is a knockout. I'd be very surprised if he was able to win a decision against Pat Sabatini. Pat, it's not like he's totally out of it on the feet. He's just not such a great finisher, and I'm starting to think he's more vulnerable. after getting knocked down twice recently in the UFC and finished once. I think he should be minding his P's and Q's. He should be trying to avoid a stand-up affair with Lucas, because Lucas should be a little bigger, quite bigger, and more deadly on the feet, much more deadly. But on the ground, I think Sabatini will have Lucas Almeida's number. Almeida's a black belt, never been submitted, but Pat Sabatini is an excellent wrestler and an excellent grappler himself. He's a guy that's got 10 subs and his 17 wins every which way, heel hook, rear naked, whatever. But I think, maybe not every which way, but multiple ways. I think he's going to be dominating if he's able to get Lucas Almeida down. This won't be a fight where Lucas is able to make gains and, find himself in the fight in round 3 like he did with Trezano. I think if Sabatini is able to wrangle him, he's able to wrangle him the whole fight, and it'll only get better. Like I said, he's been known to have really strong round 2s after he settles into a grappling fight, and that could happen here where he gets a finish down the stretch. But mainly his primary, if I had a gun to my head, I'd say Sabatini. If he was to win, it'd be by decision, and that is my pick. Sabatini controls Lucas Almeida and wins a decision. You can play that at plus 175. I'm not in love with it because I think he's got a good chance of getting a submission, and I'm not gonna lie, I sprinkled something on round 2 sub because I'm a degenerate. But I think Sabatini should win this fight. On the other hand, I did bet on Lucas Almeida. Lucas Almeida, round 1 knockout. Even though, he got to finish in round 3 in his last fight. He's dangerous the whole fight. But I think Sabatini, look, he's been dropped recently. Like I said, that was both very early in the first minute of the fight in both fights. And with Lucas Almeida knowing that, I'm sure, and knowing his primary path to victory is knocking Sabatini out, and he doesn't want to engage in a grappling affair, I think he's going to be trying to get it done early. So it's worth a sprinkle. But that's all sprinkle that I just, I don't have too much faith in. The pick is Sabatini. I'm trusting his chin to keep him, his chin to not fail him, and for him to make this a Sabatini fight and take over. Might be a little rough getting it to the ground initially, but once he does, I think the takedowns and the control will only come more easily as the fight goes on. And maybe the submission, hopefully. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.